Oh, shush, no.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to Sumaiyah!
Sorry.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Just Our Stories podcast. Today you may have noticed that Sumaiyah isn't speaking. She's going to be a participant for today, and I'm going to be moderating. My name is Rawdat, and you might recognize me from the previous episodes. So to begin, I think it'd be great if we just did a little hi hello so everyone knows whose voice is whose.
Hi.
Shams, say hi.
I'm Shams.
Tabia.
Hey guys, I'm Tabia.
And Sumaiyah. Let's go! Sorry, hi. Alright. So the topic this episode is colorism, which is probably our most serious topic so far. We definitely acknowledge how complex of an issue it is, and I just want to preface this by saying that our discussions are based on our own experiences and perspectives, and we're not here to speak on anybody else's story. So before we really dive into how colorism manifests in our own communities and our own lives, I think it's really important to establish definitions. And the difference between colorism and racism, because often they're mixed up. So to start, racism, by definition, is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. And colorism is, by definition, prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among the people of the same ethnic or racial group. So some topics that we're going to be addressing in this episode are beauty standards, anti-Blackness in the South Asian community, as well as how to approach educating others on such a heavy subject like this. So let's get right into it. Anybody want to start us off with maybe like an anecdote or a story, or maybe their own some place that they witnessed colorism or racism take place?
I think as a South Asian, specifically Bengali female, there is a lot of colorism in our culture, particularly because for some reason, I'm not sure, well, obviously it's systemic racism, but it's this weird, strange relationship between your own family members having a darker skin tone and discriminating them and then putting them into a lower pedestal than you. And it's strange because although I'm not I'm brown but not completely like black or anything, they still really look down on me, and I have like lots of cousins who are lighter toned, and they look at them at a higher light. Like it's so strange because they've always like loved them more, or like gave them more attention, and like it's so strange because I'm just like kind of the odd one out. Them beautiful. They've always like complimented them. So I've like not. I felt weird because I'm like, okay, I'm not even that much of a I swear I'm pretty. Like I have to really just create my own self-esteem, my own self-confidence all by myself, and like not rely on my own family members, my own community, because you don't appreciate that skin tone. And growing up, you're always like told to do Fair and Lovely, which is a
oh my god.
Right.
Oh
my god.
Fair and Lovely commercials.
I mean, I can
with a burning passion.
It is a skin lightening cream, and
it's a bleach, straight up.
There's so many advertisements in Bangladesh where you would put it on, and it's literally just like white paint at that point. It doesn't do anything to your.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Not only that. Sorry, go on.
No,
yeah, they just go by the simple context of, oh, if your skin's just lighter, you look way more beautiful. Like,
yeah.
Oh, come on, that's just wrong.
And it causes like a lot of skin issues as well, and like they use lighter toned actresses to like model that, and you're like, oh, you want to be beautiful like them, and it's always like, oh, you'll get lighter in winter, or like, oh, you got so dark, like why'd you get so dark? I'm like, yeah,
girl, aunties always have something to say, you know what I mean?
Oh my god. I mean,
it's
for me, like for me growing up, I mean, in terms of like my mom's side of the family, I am the darkest per se, because like I am per se like the darkest cousin, you could say, basically.
Like, for example, everyone from my mom's side in my family, they're all like light, and by light I mean they're like they're white as milk, as you would say in Bengali, basically.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I was first going there, everyone was like, you're from Canada. I thought you'd be
Oh my
white. Why are
God.
you like darker?
Are you serious?
And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it was from a young age, right? And so obviously, when you're like 6 or 7, you don't have that concept of self-esteem. Or you have that concept. Like, when you're younger, you're already confident, right? Like, no one can break you down. The world is yours. So when you start hearing comments about that from a young age, you start to question what you look like, right? Because at the age of 7, you don't care. It's like, life is life. I have Barbie dolls. I have my Transformers. Whatever. It's fine. But like, once they start criticizing the way you look, you start questioning who you are as not only as a Canadian, but also as a Bengali person, but also as a person that isn't that's not like white, basically, And so
Absolutely.
I grew up with that. And then once I got older, it got even more important because they talk about, you're gonna have to get married, blah blah blah. You have to be lighter, blah blah blah, stuff like that. I mean, over time it got better. Like, over time they're like, they kind of got out of that concept of lighter meaning beautiful. But I mean, I did have to grow up with that. Like, there was a time where they made me use white Fair and Lovely. Like, I had that whole process with me. But yeah, I mean, growing up, that's something that I did have to, I guess, face, and I think that's what. And now, even sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, you got darker." Well, I mean, am I supposed to get lighter?
Honestly.
Like, what's that?
And
but yeah.
I mean, those attitudes are definitely pushed on us from a young age, and there's always this correlation between like being fosha, which is the Bengali word for fair, and it's always used in the same sentence as like beautiful or pretty, right? And as if they're interchangeable terms, which is crazy. And these attitudes also they're sort of a product of history, and it's a very complex issue that's been
definitely
building up over many years, right?
You could tell, like, the way they say it is very brainwashy too. Like, it's in their, like, they have to say it almost, or like it's an anthem that they stand by.
It all just sounds
so even
corporate.
In like even when you go to like parties, say, I know in Bangladesh, when I was growing up, when I went to Bangladesh, we had a lot of weddings. Everyone would go to like the salons, and they'll come out with like white foundation, even though they're like
don't even
tan skin. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
like, that always happens, right?
You.
And so even from like things.
Yeah.
But like, you even see that when there's like big parties and big celebrations, women would wear like much lighter foundation. They wouldn't show off their true skin. And so as a young kid, I saw that, and I would also still question, well, what about people who want to show their color? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And these beauty standards are not only upheld in South Asia, but in Asia in general, as well as in Black communities as well, right? Like, colorism is an issue.
I feel like everywhere it's a big
And it's like, and it's not even that. It's just like, we see it in our daily life, but it's also like social media, right? Like, that is a huge contender. How they only really what's called hire actors that are light skinned in the Black community, but there are like amazing, beautiful, talented darker skinned actors, and they
just don't
even
get
bother hiring
recognition.
Oh yeah,
right?
nowadays,
they don't,
nowadays I feel like media is starting to diversify more and more, and it's definitely a good movement towards like
like making that
which
effort
brings
to see that representation. That's really important.
Which brings me to another point. I feel like our culture's been modernized somehow. So like, slurs like the N-word, for example. Like, now they actually educate you on the historical context of the word and why you should never use it. But this was something more emphasized, like something like George Floyd's murder. It could be used to spread awareness because, well, what happened wasn't okay, right?
But I want
that can be
continue that is like the education that we get from Canada is a huge thing on our part, because we get that education, but not a lot of people in like South Asian countries actually don't have that education at all. It's literally everything that they're saying is just ignorance, because they're not aware of it, and they're just being told what they're.
When considering third world countries, it's a much bigger issue compared to.
And it makes me feel,
but it isn't really a comparative thing. It's still an issue.
And even like in grade 12 or something. Yeah, in grade 12, no, sorry, grade 11, we had like a Australian substitute teacher, and like he was giving us like, it was just one class, and he was making us do a presentation about how like learns more about Australia and stuff. And one of them was like, I forgot what the question was, but it led to him saying like Australia is extremely racist because we're really ignorant. We don't have that education. We don't really been told about like the slave trade. We've never been taught about the Underground Railroad or anything like that. So they have like even though it's a what's it called? A developed country, which I don't really like saying. I don't like saying developed or anything. Yeah. But although people would see UK, Canada, USA, and Australia on the same level, they think that maybe Australia is a bit like less racist, but no, they experience just as much racism as a lot of countries, and it shows it shows that even though Canada and whatnot we're still educated, there's still a long history of racism, and it shows like a weird contrast of like, yeah, you're educated, yes, there's still racism. Imagine the countries that aren't educated and they're still racist. Like there's so much to improve in both worlds, right?
I definitely agree that education is a big part of modernizing the way that, not modernizing per se, but pushing more progressive narratives of how we approach other people and our own biases and stuff, and working on that. But I'd argue that that representation in media and the media that we consume is probably even more impactful.
It's a big,
because it reaches so much more of an audience, right? Like when we talk about when we see Bollywood movies or like artists in South Asia, like I can't name a single like dark-skinned actress.
Let me
I don't know if you guys
story.
can.
Do you know Sonakshi Sinha?
Yeah,
so she's not even that like, she's Shimla, right? Like Shimla is like medium. So even
like my skin tone-ish, kind of.
Yeah, even then she got so much backlash because of her skin tone.
Really?
Yeah.
And these industries will force you to bleach your skin as well, right? Because you need anything for to make it in Bollywood.
It has to please people.
Yeah,
exactly. If I don't know if you guys have watched Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives, I think that's what it's called on Netflix. No. It's like a reality TV show.
Girl, what?
Oh my god, you guys haven't watched it? Bro.
No.
It's basically like a reality TV show with like basically famous wives in Bollywood, right? And every single one of them, like, to me, they could be white passing. I was shook.
Oh my.
I was like, wow. And they're beautiful women, no doubt, right? But I don't think they're representative of South Asia as a whole. It's pretty shocking to see that like literally none of them, I can't identify with any of them at all. It's crazy.
Yeah, at least like Indian matchmaking also had that weird contribution to colorism and classism, where like they didn't want like a guy or a girl to do like literally.
Yeah, it was always
like,
one of their.
Dark.
Yeah, it was always one of their like.
Bro, that show is its own category, bro.
Bollywood in itself is its own category. Let's be real.
We'll probably have like a whole episode or like a podcast on
Bollywood episode
on like media Bollywood and stuff. But stay tuned.
The title of that is "What is Wrong with Bollywood?"
Like, the whole thing with Fair and Lovely, that on top of how Bollywood culture is, like, it's just a big shitstorm.
Honestly, and Fair and Lovely
like,
rebranded.
or Get Out. That's
yeah, they did.
Like, hello?
Like, sorry, if you're dark skinned, you can't be glowy? Like, what is this?
I have to mute myself for a bit.
Someone hold my highlighter.
Bro, I'm actually cringing so much. That pisses me off so much. And it sucks because, like, we have so many, like, relatives in Bangladesh that are, like, probably experiencing the same racism, but if anything, worse than us because of the lack of education. And we can't do anything, right? We just have, like, we're kind of sitting from, like, in Canada, if the most we could do is just, like, message and be like, oh, we're there for you and all that, but it's hard, right? So I feel so bad for them. And I do want, like, whenever I go there, I actually, like, make sure to, like, give them my most, like, undivided attention, if anything more, because I know they're, like, somehow oppressed and they don't want to speak up. They're really silent, and it sucks because, like, I see like, my favorite cousin is so oppressed, and I love her so much. She's the best. Shout out to Rawdat. But yeah, I love her so much, and I do want her to, like, flourish. But in this society and the environment that she's in, she's not gonna have that there.
I have a little story about skin bleaching creams. So basically, this is tea. Not gonna drop any names, obviously, but I was back in Bangladesh in, like, I think 7th grade is when this happened. So I was staying with my cousins and stuff, right? And we were just out one day, and I didn't know it until we got there, but we were buying, like, skin bleaching creams, not for me obviously, but for her, right? And she's a little darker than the rest of her siblings and stuff, right? And her family. And yeah, that was a really eye-opening experience. I was like, damn, they really be doing this stuff, huh? And like, they go out of their way to buy it. Yeah, and she's like super, super pretty, like, in my opinion. So it was just wild.
Did you speak up about it?
It's sad. It's sad to see.
And I don't know if you guys know this, or I don't think it's really common knowledge, but, like, fashion magazines and stuff, and, like, modeling agencies as well, in South Asia, they use white models a lot of the time.
Yeah,
like, their clothing.
That or
like shoddy models and stuff.
Yeah, they're like from Ukraine.
Bro, I haven't seen a single brown-skinned lady in a Shawi store. In the Shawi, like, magazines that you see, I've never seen one.
Even the mannequins. Have you seen the mannequins?
Why are they white? Why are they white? Like, excuse me.
So like, strange. I hate it so much. But even,
bro, like, I thought this was a brown store. Like, what is this?
Once I went to, like, some Shawi store, and they actually painted the mannequin white. Like, it was brown, but they painted it white. I'm being serious.
That's actually merged.
I've seen that.
What?
Like, I can see the paint chipping off. I'm just like, yo, this girl has, like, brown fingertips, but she's white. Like, this.
Yikes.
Oh, bro, that makes me so angry, but also cringe. It's just like,
yeah. That's so cringe.
But I'm thinking about, like, power banks too. Like, power banks did do a lot, but also didn't do a lot, and it's a weird mix of, like, I want to stand her because of how she is, but also, like, there's a lot of things that she did so far. I can't even pinpoint a lot of things, but, like, oof.
I mean, if we're talking about celebrities, how they contribute to this, if you guys remember back when BLM was popping off, right? Like, back when, right after the events that triggered, like, the new resurgence of it, a bunch of, like, Bollywood celebrities, not gonna drop names, but, like, they were talking all about.
Bro, didn't you do a Fair and Lovely ad? I'm sorry.
Let me pull up your Fair and Lovely ad. Like, is this you? Like, it was wild.
I'm pretty sure I tweeted at her. I'm like, this you?
Like, they were legit only doing it because it was the trend. It was just a trendy thing to do. Just to speak up that, oh, we condone this. Now, like my page, subscribe, follow me or something. Like, bro,
it really
whatever
is
whatever happened to having quote unquote fosha skin? Absolutely
not.
And I do want to, like, sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. Sumaiyah, go on.
Oh, I said, like, I wanted to, like, thank, like, Twitter and, like, social media. Like, there are so many, like, giant groups that that will call them out and will constantly try to correct them in the right way. Although there are like there's some people who would obviously bash those who are correcting them, but it's just like as long as you stand your ground, as long as you keep pushing for that positive narrative, like that's all that we need to do is like constantly correct them, make sure that they're in the right lane, right? So yeah, kudos to all those who are doing that.
Right.
I wanted to bring this up earlier, but so basically, when we speak about like how language contributes to these ideas, I think it's important to address the Bangla word for black, which is kalo, and how it's sort of treated like a bad word, and it has really heavy negative connotations to it. And a lot of this, much of this stems from history, you know, colonization, looking at it through a post-colonial lens, and how because Bangladesh was part of India and India was colonized by the British, you know, these things have existed for so long, and it stems from this idea that like people who are fair, I'm not sure if this is like a verified concept or anything, but it stems from this idea that people who were fair could afford to like not work out in the fields, like they weren't farmers, they weren't agricultural workers, right? So they could afford to not do that, and people who were out of the fields, they would get darker, right? So that's where this idea stems from.
The idea of the caste system and how like laborers, farmers, traders, are just generally darker, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're terrible or anything, right? It's just literally how it's made, because if you're staying inside, you're the rich. So
exactly. Like you could afford to not be dark. That's what it's saying. Which is messed up. But and you know, there's just a lot of, in general, I think we can all speak to this to some extent, there's a lot of general anti-blackness in the South Asian community.
Definitely.
And I think we should really 100%. Speak on the South Asian community or Bengali communities, because we're all Bengali here, community's relationship with the Black community, especially in Toronto, and speaking to that from the perspective of people, so us who are second generation Canadians who grew up in predominantly Black and brown communities. So does anyone want to you know, go off of that?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
So like as you're saying, especially I could speak on my parents. They have made comments in the past about, like, you know, racist and colorist comments, I want to say. But I feel like once the BLM movement came about, you know, it's all over Facebook, you know, my mom's main source of, you know, news and knowledge and everything. And so she was asking me about what happened, so I explained it to her, and then I think she was really quiet after that, after explaining to her the whole thing, and she's like, you know, she was telling me, you know, I guess a lot of the comments that I've made, they weren't necessarily humane. You know, she asked me that. She's like, yeah, they weren't. And, you know, I remember growing up, whenever she did make comments, I would always get mad at her. She didn't understand why, but I guess when we had that, you know, daughter-mother conversation about, you know, BLM and why this is important, and why, you know, and how racism is such a big problem, not only in like in America and you know, in Canada, but also within our own, you know, Bengali community and stuff like that. I think she finally, I want to say, understood like where I was coming from in terms of the comments that were made before. And I mean, it was great to have like a conversation with her about this, because, you know, with that she became more educated, right? And so after that, so there was this other video on Facebook, and it was talking about the Islamic perspective on it, right? And so it was about a story of Bilal radiallahu anhu, who was a darker companion, right? And so it talked a lot, and so it talked about, you know, Black representation in Islam, and how, you know, your piety or your worth is not defined by your skin color, but rather your actions. And that also sparked even more, I guess, attention for my mom. And so I guess the reason why I wanted to share this whole thing is that, you know, even if your parents did grow up in a place where, you know, colorism was common or racism is a common thing, it doesn't mean they have to stay that way. It doesn't mean they have to, you know, they're not changed by those ideas.
Right? Like,
exactly. And I had that opportunity with my mother by, you know, talking to her about this and stuff like that. And it was good because after that, I feel like she did become more aware. And yeah, I mean, it was a learning opportunity for both of us.
I did like the idea of teaching pure Islam because I know a lot of parents only really speak in religion, and so getting through my mom's head would just be talking through Islam, and that is a great point to make, and it is very important.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do agree, like honestly, just talking to them and making sure that they're educated, up to date, understanding our perspective, and the right perspective is very essential. And that's really what they need, right? Like they just need the correct information and not some lost information.
Exactly.
And I want to share my experience. Like I kind of grew up in a welfare environment that was primarily Black people. Like my community was. I love my community. They're so freaking cool. I love everything about them. And my mom honestly learned so much about African Americans, specifically Ethiopian and Somalian. People, and and she loves them, and she honestly, I think the sense of respect came a lot from them, and living with them. And there's been times where like she like praised them, and I've never seen like a person her age praising a Black person, and I stuck because I don't see that often. And so seeing that was really like eye-opening, and it gave me a bit of hope that like there is change. It's just like it's just a lot of repetitiveness, and like making sure that they unlearn those poor views that they'd had before, right? So I do. So it's just like a mix of like learning and also making sure that you're educated in the right way.
Right. Going off of that, like teaching through religion point, it like I definitely agree. Like seeing like Black figures, especially like being leaders in masjids and stuff in like brown communities, it's really important for us to see that, right? Like to
yes, it is,
because you know our opinions and stuff are also shaped by an environment and who we interact with, right? So there's definitely a gap in how we as like young South Asians, who as people who like grew up in Canada in these communities, how we see and perceive other groups of people compared to our parents who grew up in, you know, South Asia, and have had those narratives, you know, pushed on them for so long. There's definitely a difference.
Right.
You could definitely see the difference between like people of the older generation who immigrated here and us right now, because like I remember my dad, he used to make comments about like Black people, how he generally doesn't like them, and then like after the whole BLM movement, like he had like I talked to my dad about it, and he's like, I know I say all these things about these people, but like I shouldn't generalize them like this. They are human before like anything else. They shouldn't be treated like that.
Anything,
and
exactly.
For us,
yeah,
and it's part for us as like the children to like correct them when they do say something wrong, right?
Exactly.
So again, repetitiveness and making sure that they're on the right track. It's like I remember this is kind of like off the road, but like my mom, she would say a lot of homophobic things, but then once you like correct her, she'd be like, oh wait, okay, you're right, this is not right, blah, 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 blah.
It's all about, you know, challenging these ideas as you know, you confront them. And I think BLM was a great opportunity to educate and to open up these conversations, because it was so mainstream, it was so you know, out there in the open, for everyone knew what was happening.
It was it was a moment for it was a big time for like educating everyone around you, whether it be, you know, friends that may have said stuff, or friends who aren't aware, parents and families who aren't aware. It was so important, and it was so, like, I want to say vibrant in terms of educating the people around you. Like I remember, like I keep talking about this, but like I really thought it was great that my parents could finally, or like my mom specifically, could be aware of this. You know, because again, that's what makes you even closer to your parents. Again, the more stuff you're able to talk about, and per se, I guess you could even say agree on, that's what makes you look better as an intense relationship. But yeah, I mean, it's important that you do approach your parents about things like this, and especially for those of you who are, I guess struggling maybe to talk to your parents about these things. It's scary. It definitely is. But if you think about it, if you don't do it, who is? You know, they're not gonna have some random person on the street go tell them. You know, it's kind of our responsibility and also our privilege to be able to talk to our parents about these, talk to our families about things that are important, about things that matter to us.
And I just want to say to anybody who's listening, who's, you know, a young person just like us, your parents' beliefs and biases don't have to be your own. Like, I encourage 100%. You to think critically, 100%. And I encourage you to question what you've been taught thus far, and to question and confront your own biases, whether they be implicit or explicit, right? Like,
exactly.
You know, keep yourself in check is what I'm saying. And
yeah.
I wanna wait. Do you have
No, it's okay. Go on. So
I'm gonna cut because I do have a different question. But like, do you guys want to talk about what to say in a conversation when you see like your relatives being shunned down because of their skin tone in Bangladesh? Because
this is tough.
It is a tough question because in Bangladesh you're kind of the minority though, right? You're the one who has like the language barrier. You're the one from Canada. Right? It's like that thing.
I hate we're foreigners. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Girl, I pull out Google Translate. I'm like, yo, you want to talk? I have my Google Translate over here.
So yeah, like, would you guys use? So those like actual techniques that you would use?
So I think my approach would be. Here's the thing: when you're challenging somebody's beliefs that have been, you know, pushed on them for so long, and it's so like, I guess it's personal. I don't think you should be approaching it aggressively. Like, you shouldn't be saying this is the right way to think, and you're wrong, I'm right. This is not like that's not the way you should do things.
I think the best approach. Tell them that like what they're doing is wrong, like what they're saying is wrong. If they disagree, then it's just a lost cause. They're gonna do what they're gonna do.
I think more than telling them that they're wrong, I think it's more valuable to, I guess, spark this sort of question.
Of whether or them not, in their beliefs.
Why exactly?
Like,
why?
Exactly. Like,
that's good.
At least plant this idea that in their minds that, you know, maybe they should be questioning why they think like this. Such as like, right?
Why should you be judged based on the
it's
color
not as
of your
productive
skin?
To just tell them they're
Everybody's
wrong.
human here.
Mm-hmm.
You're being less human than us by calling us, judging us based on our color, but that's besides the point. Anyways,
like, it's important to not like mix up culture and religion, right? Also,
yes, 100%.
Because there's a very, very, very
but religion does play a
big
role.
There's a fine line between the two.
I think people have merged it inappropriately a lot of times.
Merged it. Yes,
and try to justify, you know, prejudice and try to justify their own agendas using religion, which I think is I didn't even know that we would take this approach to this conversation, like at all. But it's important to bring up.
I brought it up.
It's very important though, because like I know a lot of like so many people. So a lot of my arguments is like how would I approach it in a Islamic narrative, like. Not that I'm making shit up, but like it's literally like that's the only way they could understand, right? And it is important too, because
not only that, I like it's just such a powerful tool to be like to get, you know, aunties really thinking about what they say. And
aunties.
I mean,
I love the way you said that.
I mean, it really do be the aunties though, you know what I mean? Like,
that's true. The aunties on WhatsApp. Oh god.
And I do know like a couple of people, I'm not gonna name them, but like I have friends that I won't call them friends, but they literally use it in the opposite way, where they use Islam as something, and like they give them false ideas. Like I know someone who supports Trump, but also is like really, yeah, there's a strong Muslim as well.
Sorry.
Someone's confused.
It's okay. We accept all beliefs here.
Yeah,
it's fine.
But I agree with confused, and it is like again like getting the right information, right? So make sure you do research.
Yeah, and then knowing, it's about being educated. You know, don't think like you have to go around and learn stuff. Don't be afraid of learning new things and changing your beliefs along the way. You know, it's okay. You're not chained down to one thing for the rest of your life.
You're allowed to reform your ideas and to add on to experiences and learn.
100%.
Like, nobody's saying that you have to continue believing in one thing for the rest of your life, right? Like,
and you don't have to stop growing.
We should be very open about that. Like, make sure that we shouldn't shame them for having that perspective before, because as long as they change, right? And we should
if people have made mistakes, we should be forgiving. We should help them see the other side of the story, and in approaching that, also be patient with people.
And as much as cancel culture is very tasteful,
I hate cancel culture.
Hate cancel culture.
That's a whole other podcast.
Cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Serious.
But that's besides the point.
I guess we should probably wrap it up pretty soon, but I was gonna bring this up before when we were talking about growing up in Black and Brown communities, but the youth perspective of I guess identifying with another group sometimes more than your own as well, because a lot of us are immigrants. We came here maybe maximum 20-30 years ago, right? Like pretty new to the country.
Right.
Like we don't really have role models like that, our own ethnicity. I mean, now we do. More role models are popping up, right? Like Hassan Minhaj. And there's just this gap, and it's pretty ironic how colorism is so prevalent in South Asia, even though, and how anti-Black sometimes South Asians can be, despite being the same skin tone as many Black individuals. Like it's just wild to me that this kind of prejudice exists.
Yeah, I do like how there are a lot of influencers now that flaunt their skin tone no matter what they were, and it's nice to see. Like for example, Mishti. I think it's just nice to talk about Mishti.
Oh my god!
But I love Mishti so much. Yeah, and I want to show my cousins that, and back in Bangladesh, and show them bro, you could be freaking beautiful. Just don't let anyone stop you, dude. We're a bit older now. We're about late teens now, and I'm 23 now. But when you
oh my god, late teens, I just realized.
So
sorry, go on.
But the next generation, right? We're the ones that are going to be setting the examples now, right? So we should be other people's role models, and that's we don't want to repeat history, right? So this podcast in itself, how we approach ourselves and sharing our knowledge is very important for our next generation, because there's again children are the future, as cringy as that sounds, but it is legit. They're the ones who are going to be setting ablaze, and I love them.
I think we definitely have a responsibility to be educating future generations.
Yes,
as cheesy as it sounds, we are the
I think that
future's torch. What was that? What was that thing again?
Shams. All right.
Oh god.
Yikes.
Yeah.
All right.
Go get a dictionary, my guy.
Damn. Okay. I think that pretty much wraps it up, though. This was a great discussion.
Very needed.
Everybody say peace or bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Until next time, guys.
Bye.
Peace.